Astro Open is brought to you by Astro, Monster Energy, Corsair, and Zowie.
Welcome back, everybody, to day 2 here at the DreamHack Astro Open in Tours in wonderful France. We have seen 2 best of 3s today already, and we have 2 more to go. The ones that we have seen have definitely delivered. Counter-Strike has been played at its highest here, and I'm sure that our next 2 matches will deliver on the same level. We have 6 teams left now. They're still battling it out for that trophy and, of course, the lion's share of $100,000. My name is Parla, also known as Mantrus, and I am your desk host for this event. But I'm not alone. I'm joined on the desk, of course, by Jacob Pimp Vinnike and Joona Naatu Leppänen. Guys, we just saw a really cool best of 3 between the 2 French teams in attendance. We have 2 more to go. How are you feeling? You ready?
I'm ready.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is going to be an interesting one for sure. We get to see Navi, who got manhandled by Mousesports yesterday, I think, to say the least. 16-3 is a measly little scoreline. Misfits surprising heroic before this. I don't think we didn't expect it, obviously. We both say 2-0 heroic, but here we are. They're going to be the ones to get to try to get a revenge on Navi, but it does really get tricky for them. In a best of 3 series against players of this caliber, even if Navi is going through a bit of a rough time, this is definitely going to be a slight challenge for the American side.
No doubt. Let's get up the groups for everybody at home so we can catch you all up on what has happened so far in the tournament. We have 2 groups, Group A and Group B. Starting off with Group A, we saw Navi take out Misfits, and we saw Heroic fall to Mousesports. That meant we saw Navi take on Mousesports in the winners match, and Misfits and Heroic this morning go to 3 maps, with Misfits coming out on top, leading us to the match we are about to see, Navi versus Misfits. Moving on to Group B, we have G2 versus Trick. That was a huge surprise. Trick came out on top, moving them into the winners match. Hellraisers then beat Envious, 16-5. Again, a very big scoreline, a great victory for them. That meant they went on to play Tricked, and that was 16-13 in favor of them. Meaning, we just saw G2 versus Envious, and that was, of course, in favor of G2, 2-0. And then later today, we will see G2 try to reclaim their pride and take revenge on Tricked in a best of 3. And then we go, our semi-finalists waiting on either side of the bracket, Hellraisers and Mousesports. So, guys, let's talk about the game we are about to see. Navi, tell me about them. Jacob.
They are not in the best shape right now. We saw that yesterday, as Nato said, they got manhandled by Mousesports 16-3 on a map they notoriously are well known for playing good on, Mirage. So it's definitely not the Navi of the same caliber as we've seen before. They have some problems, and what exactly they are, I'm not sure of, but it's not a Navi in top shape, and against the Misfits that could be dangerous, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, in that first game of the tournament, I think it was between Navi and Misfits that we witnessed, it was a 16-5 for Navi, but especially in the early parts of that game, and there was a lot of rounds that got really close. A lot of 2-on-2s, 3-on-3s. The economy was actually very limited for Navi, so only if 1 or 2 of those rounds would have gone the way of Misfits, we could have potentially seen a very, very different kind of a match. But at the end of the day, you could see the skill level, just the sheer experience of the unit overcame the challenge of Misfits in those crucial situations, and I think that could be the defining factor here. But again, it's going to be very, very small margins that make a difference.
Talking about defining factors, it seems that this evening the defining factor is revenge. We have Misfits trying to take out Navi, and of course, a G2 going to be able to take out Tricked. Let's take a look in more detail at the first team on screen now. That is a player from Misfits. I think we're going to look at them first. And I was going to start talking about Navi, but we are ready to go with Misfits as well. Take a little preview of that team and see what they are capable of, because they've offered us a surprise already today, taking out Heroic. The Danes, of course, very unhappy. They didn't perform as they should. You know what I mean? They were coming here to prove that they could carry on the form from Austin and potentially even do better. But it wasn't the case.
I think the individual skill on that side actually has been quite surprising. The French players have played rather well. Shazam has actually shown some balls, something that's not very
that clutch,
common
man,
for him.
to win against Heroic.
I'm going to be honest,
sick.
I'm sorry, Shazam, but he doesn't exactly strike me as a very super confident kind of an opera a lot of the time. But at least this tournament so far, he's definitely being much more confident. It helps his team when he can make some openings. Here we see Sean.
Shawnee G, man, I feel like he was doing a great job at calling in their best of 3 earlier. He was seeming to make the right decisions, which bombsite, at what points to rotate, mid-round calls.
So far, I like the way they play. They've shown a lot of character in the terms of different variety of way to play, fast-paced, slow-paced, methodical. You have your occasional fakes here and there, utilizing kind of the plays they've done before, as in if they've hit it. Let's say they hit a B-bomb site, they'll try to fake that B-bomb site and then effectively go towards the A-bomb site afterwards. So, yeah, I mean, so far, so good. I guess the collaboration with Peacemaker has definitely done some wonders. And these kind of individuals, you know, they have a striking power, but again, with so limited experience as a unit, playing against players as they are right now, it's a lot of things have to go their way.
Misfits, Jacob. Earlier today, it was a story of Shazam and Sick, if I remember correctly. Those guys were firing off on all cylinders. How important is it for them to step up again in this matchup against Na'Vi?
Is crucial for them. Like, they need to step up again, and they need to be even better than they were against Heroic. Like, Shazam needs to, as Nato said, he needs to show balls. One thing is to do it against Heroic.
I like the way that we've just started talking about this Shazam and his, you know, the objects in question. I think, you know, he's done a great
Jingle
job.
bells.
Yeah, exactly. Well, he's been showing that he has that confidence, he has that swagger. How can you doubt a guy that wins a best of 3 against the 3rd best team in Denmark and one of the best teams, arguably top 10, at least top 15 team in Heroic, with a double no-scope?
Yeah, I know. One thing is to do it against Heroic, you know, is to do it against, like, who is Heroic's primary orber, you know? That's Jugi, a guy that he barely knows probably, you know, a new guy on the scene. Another thing is going up against Guardian, and I know it's a mind game, but as a player, you think, you can't, like, help to think about who you're going up against, you know? So I saw Shazam playing against Heroic, and he did some I wouldn't say brainless peaks, but he did some confidence plays, you know, and I just want to see him do that against Guardian, do that against Simple, because if he can do that, then there's potential for something big, but as Nato said, we haven't seen it much from him to this point.
Going into this game, you'd think there's a huge advantage for Na'Vi in terms of map pool, but then you go back and you look at the numbers and you think, wait a minute, there's a few maps where Na'Vi's looking at like 6 game in a row loss streaks, for example, on Nuke and Cobble being two good examples. So this veto is actually going to be very interesting to see how this pan out, since we know Na'Vi is going to have that cast veto to come in straight from the get-go, and then they will potentially have to play one of these maps that they've definitely not been shining in recently, which would then allow for a bit of an opening here for Misfits to get into this best of 3.
It's interesting what you mentioned, Pimp, about Shazam, because I do feel like some major points in his career have been built off shining moments where he's really outperformed his usual kind of like level. Like, for instance, when he switched over from Denial to Cloud9, he was... I remember he had like an absolutely stunning series, or at least map, on Mirage, and he was making these plays that were just absolutely insane. And if he's doing that here, coming in. Yeah, exactly. And if he does that here, maybe, just maybe, they can take out Na'Vi.
We're going to see Overpass and Cash go out the window. Now, question mark is, what is Na'Vi going to do for their pick? I feel like they're going to go for Train. It's a map where they actually have a pretty good track record on recently. They're 8-1 this year. So considering the other maps, you have 6 losses in a row on Cobble, 6 in a row on Nuke. They're 50-50 on Mirage. Cobble, yeah, there we go. It does make sense. You know, it's definitely not been Na'Vi's bread and butter recently. So they went for that Cobble pick as we were expecting beforehand. And same likewise for Na'Vi. They go for Train. Now, I'm guessing, is Na'Vi going to get rid of Nuke? Inferno goes out from Misfits. That's a fair play. It's one of the better maps again it's been a pretty decent map here for Na'Vi. One of the few where they have a solid track record on. So I'm guessing Nuke is going to go out the window. Here's the last ban, but...
Should be.
I think Train for Na'Vi is definitely a very... Yeah, you're right, Natu. There we go. It's a Nuke ban, and the final decider map will be Mirage. Will we see it? Only time will tell. Talking about Train, Na'Vi picking that, of course, a strong map for them, but we did see earlier Misfits managed to produce a result on it. Maybe they'll be feeling comfortable, oiled up, ready to go on that map. I'm not sure.
I mean, like I said, the first game that these teams met up in didn't paint an exactly the right picture through the scoreline. It was a lot closer in the first few rounds, but end of the day, only the scoreline matters. So And from Navi's perspective, this is one of the few maps where they're actually looking pretty decent. It's Train is a map they're okay. Mirage they're 50-50 on. You obviously saw the darker side yesterday, getting only 3 rounds on it. And then I think it was the right play from Misfits to go for Cobble. They don't have a lot of maps that they can go to in terms of being their bread and butter, but you just kind of have to go through Navi's weaknesses, and that is Cobble is one of them.
Natu, we are pretty much ready to go with this match. Our casters are ready, so would you like to give us a quick prediction? How is this series going to play out?
I feel like Train is again going the way of Navi. They seem still the better team on it. Cobble, it's not great for Navi. This could easily be a 3-mapper, but I'm thinking Navi's still they're gonna prevail since they just have better individual skill and they are just a more experienced team together.
Pimp.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a Navi victory in the end. But I just like the fact that we're talking about a team like Misfits going up against Navi, and we're actually talking about like the maps probably fitting Misfits better, you know, because Navi doesn't really have any safe ground besides Train right now. Third map is Mirage. They lost 16-3 against Mouseport yesterday. If it goes to third map, then I really feel Misfits has a real chance of taking it. I still think it's going to be a 2-0 for Navi, but if we go to third map, it's open.
All right, there we go. Let's get our casters involved as well. And it is our second pair. It's Dust and Metuz. Welcome, guys, to the building. Are you guys ready to go today? You feeling good? I can't wait to see your beautiful faces. There we go. What's up?
Hey, Pala. How's it hanging, bro?
It's hanging.
It's Gilroy now, remember?
Oh, Gilroy, sorry. How's it hanging, Gilroy?
Yeah, it's going well. Very, very well. And I'm ready and happy to just give it to you guys. Take it away.
Well then,
I didn't want to have anything to do with us.
Yeah,
Of course you would. Yep, right.
Straight in.
That's why you asked how I was hanging, of course. You need to know where to position yourself, obviously. Yep, that's a great start. That's a great start to the show. There you go.
Solid. Already fired,
of course. Yep.
Yep. But either way, into this best of 3, I think you've got to really go along with the desk there. Misfits, to even be in this position would have surprised a lot of people. Heroic certainly were the favourite in that previous best of 3.
Sure.
But they've shown great tenacity. You know, the first map went into overtime. They end up going nuke. Everyone's expecting Heroic to win. They do win. And they come back on Train, I believe it was, the third map, to become the victors. So for me, that is a huge surprise. But Na'Vi recently haven't really been on top form, I think it's safe to say. So if we were going to have a look at them right now, is there a hope for Misfits? Is there a small slither of hope that they could potentially cause another huge upset today?
I mean, I think that the Cobblestone pick definitely gives them room to do something like that, because this is obviously a map that Na'Vi have really struggled on. You know, their online record is really poor on the map. Offline, it's not much better with this current 5. I will say at the E-League Major, they did really well in the group stages on Cobblestone, but that was really off the back of like just ginormous CT sides was like really the story of that group stage for them. And then, you know, they wound up losing it the last couple of times they played it when they played against North and company. So there definitely seems to be a weakness on a map that used to be home ground for Na'Vi with previous lineups, right? When Zeus was running the things, they seem to really approach the map well, but they've struggled to retain that. And Misfits is kind of a mystery box on this map, just to throw that out there. They've only played it one time, period, since Amanek and Devaduvic joined the team. So there's really not a whole lot of data out there about them. So could throw us a curveball on what they're up to as they will start on this terrorist side.
Indeed they shall. We are going to be live into this one. And I'm sure for the French fans in the audience, they're still going to be cheering with Misfits, with obviously Devaduvic and Amanek, who are both French, joining the ranks of the Americans. Like originally it would be some kind of an A-long hit, but they have decided better of that and moving towards the bomb, which is now currently residing just outside of the connector. Guardian first player to face and first player to fall. Shazam and Sick both come through with kills, opening things nicely for Misfits.
Yeah, they're going to bring that bomb. Oh, never mind. Seize is now cutting off that rotation back towards the A side. They looked like they wanted to group up and try to push this over on the other side of the map, but a great catch there from Seize will slow them down just a bit, as Misfits are definitely gathering up over here towards Long A, though. They still have a fair amount of time left on the clock to work with, as Seize does have one of those spots that can be very tricky to deal with in the back corner of the site, but his rotation's so far off that if he goes down, this side is wide open, and there it is from Amanek. So that plant is definitely going to go down uncontested, and now these two are going to have to try to make a retake and a man disadvantage.
One hell of a shot by Amanek there. Opening things wide open for Misfits. They've jumped on top of the bomb plant. Edward and Flamey, two mainstays of this region with it all to do. Make that just Flamey. 1 on 3, no kit, no nades. Surely no hope, and Amanek will put him out of his misery. Misfits do claim first blood in this best of 3. And it all started with Shazam and Sick both just opening up and wrecking Na'Vi. Very nicely done.
Yeah, really well played, just rotating across the map effectively off those initial duels. And so we are going to see a couple of AKs already coming out here from Misfits. Also going to get those UMPs, try to see if they can't get some extra money. Obviously a very powerful weapon. We all know it, the dreaded UMP. Full USP save here from Na'Vi, though. A very conservative approach to a round like this. I mean, typically you see teams will just go ahead and upgrade pistol armor, but doing this type of buy ensures that either A, you're going to be able to get full utility in M4s in your first gun round, and you're not going to really be lacking for anything. It also opens up the door to have multiple ops, which is definitely something this team can do. Though I will say, since Andy took over coaching, they've really restrained themselves on doing double op with Simple and Guardian so often. So, you know, we'll just have to kind of see what they have planned as Misfits looking to try to clear out drop-down room using some utilities to make sure that no gimmicks are going to come across them.
Yeah, double Molotovs, carpet of fire. Too hot to handle for Na'Vi. Aren't even going to bother trying to go in for this. That does give drop control to Misfits. Again, though, you're not expecting anything from the CTs. It's full USPs, as you highlighted before. And it's going to be a complete clean sweep, as we anticipated. Na'Vi expecting maybe more of the same. But let's have a look. No, they're going to go in straight for a full buy, including UMPs. I was just curious if they were going to go for more of an AWP-centric first buy, or if it would be the assault rifles, and it seems to be the UMPs and the M4s coming out now.
Yeah, indeed. It comes, like, I guess around earlier maybe, but it puts you in a position where you basically are on equal footing with your opponent because you know they want heavy SMGs. Now you're just going to match them. And so this is basically an equal fight in the third round of the game. So just kind of a different economic approach, I guess you could say, to the start of the half here, as Misfits are definitely well gathered up here over towards the B bomb site. They are going to have Amanek, their normal kind of lurker, playing over towards the A halls. And this is where Misfits may slow things down. They may know what they're up against. And Sean is definitely a guy who likes to, you know, tend towards these slower defaults where he can try to give himself a chance to do mid-round reads and try to call those adjustments, try to come up with counter plays. Now, obviously, he's a guy who's very famous for doing his homework, and now he even has extra kind of infrastructure behind him in Peacemaker to kind of help him along with that. So he's definitely going to want to take his time with this as we're getting towards the minute mark of the round. Amanek beginning to drift back over here towards B, so might be seeing execute here soon, but it's definitely a stack from Na'Vi, so they could really run into some huge resistance.
Pretty crucial incendiary that was thrown out by C's, though. You could see that DreamHack and a couple of his teammates were thinking about just dropping straight in and trying to take a stranglehold over drop zone, but the incendiary made them think twice. It's delayed their efforts. They are still up here with 43 seconds left. Boost onto tree for Edward. Needs to be very cognizant of drop zone. It still has a whole bunch of smoke in there. Now, they're going to be able to rattle off some shots downrange. The flashes aren't going to deter Edward from getting any more confrontation. We'll take Shazam with him, though, to the grave. But Seized and his UMP, this buy of UMPs and the assault rifles seemingly working off well. Well, I said that, but then Amanek and DreamHack, the French duo, come back in on home soil and clean up Na'Vi, leaving just Flamey. He does have 10 seconds to try and stave off this bomb. It's just ahead of him. He's going to come around to a confrontation and gets the spray onto Amanek. With 5 seconds to go, Na'Vi clutch the round. Man, was that close.
Yeah, it was just a straight-up B rush against a B stack from Na'Vi. And now this is another one of those situations where Na'Vi wins out in the close numbers situation. I mean, it comes down to a 2v2, then a 1v1, and Na'Vi closed the round. And if you heard Sean Garrison's interview earlier today after they beat Heroic, one of the things he talked about is when we played Na'Vi on Train and we got wrecked 16-5, he felt that the rounds came down to 3v3s or 1v1s a lot of time. They just could never win those clutch rounds. And now it's the first clutch situation in this map, and they've lost it. So you have to wonder if that storyline will come into play throughout this map. Obviously still very early, so I don't want to tread on that too much, but it's something to keep an eye on. We are going to see Misfits fully bought back up despite the loss here. Full AKs across the board. Na'Vi still sitting on these UMPs, trying to see if they can't farm a little bit more cash out of them.
Very slow round for Misfits. As you say, they realize that Na'Vi are going to have a pretty solid purchase. Don't want to give anything away for free. They have a real hope now of breaking Na'Vi's economy and severely hurting them. 3-player stack in long. Bomb still under control for the T's. Pretty standard stuff, Dust. Nothing is really catching my eye in terms of strategical play between these two teams.
Nah, again, it's just, like I said, Misfits tends to play a little bit slower pace style. They do have some nice executes in their playbook, though, as well. And Shazam's going to be leading it with the AK, and this is what's so great about him compared to other North American-based operas, is his ability to, on AK rounds like this, be kind of the entry fragger at times. Does get flashed off, though.
Yeah, exactly. You could see he wanted to do just that. Flashbang lands plumb in his face, and he will have to turn tail and run. It does put a bit more pressure on the rest of his teammates, who are starting to barrel the way through. Not too many grenades to play with, just flashes on the side of Na'Vi. And the bomb has been tickled and will be planted. The downside for Misfits, they've lost a whole bunch of players in the process. Shazam and Sick, both with AKs. a tall task to pull off. Sick does spot the leg, doesn't want to fully commit at first. I think he was waiting for maybe another player to come into his crosshair. And now a spray down from Shazam, who had a phenomenal best of one just a few moments prior, best three, pardon me. And now he's looking to rinse and repeat with this clutch. Seized is the next player, but he's not going to be on the chopping block. Instead, Seized will salvage the round. And for the second consecutive time, Na'Vi clutch, but only keeping one player. And with another bomb plant, thus, this could be a force buy. They know the economy is still very low.
Yeah, especially when you know that you forced like 4 rebuys out of Na'Vi. They've only been able to retain that 1 AK thanks to Season. There is that storyline chiming in already, isn't it? We've had 2 rounds come down to 1v1s, and Na'Vi have won both of them, and that was really the thorn in Misfits' side in that train best of 1 yesterday. So we'll stay posted on that, but it looks like Misfits will just go for a type of buy where they have a chance in the round, but it's not going to handicap them in the future. Like, they're still setting themselves up for buys in the long term, as this is an even game, 2-2. We are going to see a little bit more aggressive play from Na'Vi this time in the drop-down room, maybe even do the counter boost, it looks like. Try to see if they can't get in Misfits' face, try to disrupt some of this slower play.
Downside here for Misfits, though, a couple players have bought down to $900. So if they were to lose this the next round, maybe we'll see a couple of UMPs as opposed to the AK. Seized. Very aggressive. Brave plays, and he's able to drop down, but now here comes the push, and Eddie's there. I say Eddie, Edzy, also known as Edward. He is going to be spraying down with the M4A1S. I think Eddie has a certain ring to it, though.
Yeah, pretty nice. And well played there by those two. I mean, you know, just kind of sees baiting them into the play and being able to drop out. Edward right there with the follow-up support, so just kind of a double drop-down room, which is definitely a spot in the fact that's so difficult to deal with. A lot of people don't like to play that spot. It's kind of like the last spot left over in a lot of teams on who's going to play it. And this time they put a lot of emphasis on it, and it pans out quite well, as they definitely trade efficiently there. And now Na'Vi in a 4 versus 2, essentially, where Misfits just have to kind of commit to B on just these last 2 players with Tech 9s.
Guardian will miss out. That may be costing Seized his life, but there should still be a surefire round to Na'Vi, who started 2-0 down, now 3-2 up. That's the best of the rounds they've picked up, keeping 3 players alive. And yeah, Seized was almost just a bait on the end of the fishing line, and Edwards spamming them down. Here comes the buy for Misfits. AK in the hands of Sick. This is where we're going to see maybe a couple of players on UMP as opposed to the AK, and indeed we will, to the 2 Frenchmen.
Yeah, they have a lot of utility in this round as well on everyone except for Sick, who's normally their B entry player, or just an entry in general if they want to do something more A-leaning. So this might be where you see like a heavier type of execute. You see they've come off their 1-4 setup. They're now a lot more focused on trying to take mid control as well as part of A halls. And Simple, he's going to be the anchor player on this A-bomb site. And he's going to be by himself. They're putting a lot of faith in him to just hold this down while they, you know, do that double drop down room emphasis again. You know, make sure Guardian's op is posted up on the platform. So that's where all of the focus right now is for Na'Vi. So Simple has a lot of responsibility, and he's already out. Shazam gonna pick him off as Simple was trying to take a peek there, and this means that Flamey now has to rotate. And that means Sean gets to work from a 5-on-4 very early, usually pretty good at reading these mid rounds when he has the advantage like this.
On a map like Cobblestone, which is one of the highest in terms of maneuvering from one site to the other from a CT's perspective, this is really rough. Fortunately, Edward is going to come through on the headshot wall and start connecting, but he will very much live by the sword and die by it. Shazam puts him 6 foot under. A 3-on-3 seized exceptionally low, but Flamey gets the free frag onto Sick. Now is able to free himself up for a potential second one. Not going to happen, and this is where C's lack of health could really become an issue. 1 bullet and he's a dead man. Guardian, 1-on-2. We know he has it within him, but Amanek pierces through the forehead, 3-3. And this is where losing a bunch of weapons in previous rounds could catch up with Na'Vi. Yeah. About mid-3000s across the board.
And this is just, again, Shazam illustrating his versatility with weaponry. The fact that he can be kind of an entry man on rounds where he doesn't have an AWP. You juxtapose that against a guy like JDM, who people often critique for not having that same rifling ability. And that's one of the things that kind of opens this team up a bit more when you have someone like Shazam. You're never afraid to run 5 rifle setups with him. You know, people say that maybe he's too passive with AWP, but when he has AKs, he's usually one of the first guys in, and that even goes back to Conquest days. And I think that's one of the things that is undervalued about him that people don't typically pick up on, which Sean really likes and appreciates when you talk to him.
Well, Misfits certainly keeping themselves in this in the early stages. As I highlighted, Na'Vi didn't have many funds to play with, just Guardian enough for a glass cannon AWP. Other than that, there's not much to write home about, really. Max 7, exceptionally strong on this map, of course. So many players will use it. And Simple has taken the early damage alongside Sick and Shazam. Nade starting to be thrown out onto B-Long, with Misfits trying to take some control. And again, no surprises. Shazam out first on B-Plat.
Yeah, usually this would be Sick, but again, because Shazam doesn't have an AWP, he'll be the one to lead and try to set Sick up, see what he can find. He's gonna catch one jumping around. There's a lot of damage. We'll follow it up. That's Guardian out already. Does get traded, but this is the opening Misfits might want to get into B.
Edwards already picked up 2, one with a USP. Decided to go for the sidearm instead of the Mag 7. Flamey on the rock with the 1 kill. Not able to get a second. Simple, though, has been biding his time, waiting like a coiled viper, and he will strike. As Sean Gez goes for the plant, gets denied. Amanek, 23 seconds in which he has to try and retrieve the bomb and potentially kill 2 CTs in the process. One of which he's found, and that's going to be Simple, who hasn't really moved a muscle since landing the kill. Here's the first frag coming down. Surely Amanek can't pull this off on 1 HP, and Simple will deny him. Very close again, and Na'Vi, this is the 3rd time they've won a round, only kept 1 player alive, and they already had a poor economy going through into this round.
Yeah, it's 3 clutches, basically, that Na'Vi have won in this game. I mean, Misfits, when they've won rounds, because they've been absolutely just dominant all the way through. Like that Shazam round, for instance, was the last round that they won off the back of just being able to always keep a man advantage. When it's come down even, that's where things seem to break down just a bit. And they were up against a fairly low buy from Na'Vi as well, right? So even against limited resources, they ran up against a huge roadblock, and now they are the ones that have to work with just a couple of upgraded pistols, just 3 P250s, a Deagle, that 1 Tech 9, no armor, no utility. So it's pretty much just going to have to be a gather up and hope that you can hit some nice shots. Otherwise, it should be a mop-up for Na'Vi. And they have the great weaponry to do it. You know, they had the 2 UMPs, try to get that bonus money. Try to get their economy established, right? Because it's definitely been rough on both these teams to kind of make sure that they have a safety net if they lose a round.
Yeah, exactly. It's almost this economic game of chicken where both teams scared to blink. And even if Misfits lose this round, if they can take 2 or 3 weapons with them, that's still going to sting Na'Vi. That's still going to give them pause for thought going into the next round. So it's important that Na'Vi do get this one cleanly. And, well, there you go. DreamHack straight out with his sidearm. Will be laying Simple to rest. Flamey's gone the same way. They are able to retrieve the M4. There's no Kevlar, it should be mentioned, on Misfits. Aim Punch going to be a very real nuisance in which they have to contend with. And they have evened it back up and actually gone a step further as C's comes through with 4 massive kills in the end. It's against an eco. But the reason I'm getting a little bit hot under the collar there is because for a second it looked like Misfits may be able to take that round.
Yeah, it looked like they were at least going to get a bomb plant out of it. I mean, they got the opening 2 kills on the round, catching Simple up front and being able to start breaking through. But a good rotation from Na'Vi kind of fails them out, particularly from Edward and Seized. So they will now be up 5-3, but now Misfits will be back up to a full AK buy. They've yet to be able to get an op in Shazam's hands on this half, but again, it's not necessarily a focus of theirs to have to do that, as we do see Amanek again just kind of taking the lurk roll over here at middle. Everyone else got up at B, so this has been Misfits' favorite opening in this game, is just to do these 1-4 type plays and just kind of slow things down. They don't have a lot of utility in this round either, so that kind of limits their options, right? You can't really throw fakes. Have to just play straight up, and so far we just have an even exchange.
Oh, Guardian with a second onto Sean Gez. Just spamming up through the smoke. DreamHack is going to try see what he can get done through drop zone. But as you highlighted, not too many flashes, no Molotovs to play with now for Misfits. And sees from behind, catches DreamHack. Misfits chances from slim to none. Na'Vi pick up his 6th, starting to get a head of steam now, and the economy is in a much better place.
Yeah, they're doing really well on their CT side. Seeing them starting to defend some of these pushes off by Misfits. And now they do have the double op set up in play. And Misfits are going to be aware that Simple did find an op kill in that, so that they know what they're up against now, but they had to take another save. And so Na'Vi has really grabbed control of this half now. And they finally kind of tapped out Misfits economically. They have their own arsenal really being built up now. And this is where it's going to get very difficult for Misfits to break back in. They're going to have to win a couple in a row before they finally start maybe building something against Na'Vi. Meanwhile, Na'Vi are just kind of coasting for now, and Simple just posted up with this AWP. He will certainly be tested in a moment now by these pistols, but he has a good range about him. They can't really catch him out.
Starting to hear some noise up on long. Sick is going to drop Edward. Not for the first time we're seeing these pistols starting to sting. Sick with a second one, Deke, this time onto Simple, who missed quite a few shots, and Six actually picked up a third. Guardian and Flamey have it all to do. Flamey's still on the site on the cannons, and we'll get the drop onto Sick. Bomb gets put out in a horrible place too, and it looks like they are going to salvage this shipwreck of a round. Amanek not going to be able to capsize Na'Vi on this time of asking, but constantly Misfits are getting 2 or 3 kills in rounds where you think it should be a complete shutout. So they're keeping themselves close. And this is very reminiscent to when they played Na'Vi on Train, and they mentioned this in the desk. It was 16-5, but a lot of those early rounds could have gone the way of Misfits. It was a lot closer than the scoreline suggested, and I feel like 7-3 doesn't paint the full picture of this map either.
Yeah, Sibyl's been caught out a couple of times against these pistols. One time he was playing up close middle and got busted, and that time he just kind of lingered around the doorway, maybe a little bit longer than he needed to, and got caught. And you know that he's definitely that type of guy who can hit insane shots. He has that confidence about him, and that can be very useful, but in a moment like that, it almost really caught them. Luckily, Flamey, the normal rotator, was able to get into a great position at cannons and shut that thing down and not allow that to spiral out of control. And now we are going to see Misfits shifting their focus to A, as it's going to be Devil Duvik probably lurking over towards B. That's usually how they do it. They're just going to really try to push Simple back and start trying to get some map control. And once you've done this, if you've pushed them back into the site, you deny so much information, and you can really call any audible off of this and really have a good effort. But unfortunately, Edward actually pushes long. That's so rare. He gets a great kill, and now all of a sudden the information's there for Na'Vi.
Yeah, I mean, that's almost the perfect counter to losing that scouting information on A, is just to get it on B. Then you know, okay, it's probably going to be more of an A-centric hit. Should be mentioned, though, that Edward gets that kill with just shy of a minute to play with, so it's definitely in the realms of possibility that Misfits just rotate back towards B.
Sure.
Like Sean Gez is cleaning this out, too, on the long side. Going to be throwing a flashbang over. The bomb is the important thing to watch here for Sick, and he hasn't moved. So that suggests this is still going to be an A hit. Flamey thought it may bide his time looking for a second player to come through, but Guardian has his back covered anyway, and this is looking much better for Na'Vi. A clean sweep, no one dropping, keeping the double up, set up alive. 8-3 the score.
Yeah, I feel like Na'Vi has an understanding that Misfits really like to run the 1-4, and so wherever they feel the pressure from first, they know that that one guy's kind of probably by himself on the opposite end, and that's what Edward takes advantage of. Again, you so rarely see long B push-ups like that, but he was really confident in the read on what he was going to be up against. He'd have a 1v1 duel. He'd maybe be able to get his team an instant man advantage, and that's exactly what happens. So really well played. They were able to get that extra rotation to A early because of that. They were able to shut down the hit, and so now they're up 8-3. I mean, they're dominating this half. They're doing fantastic work here on a map that we know that they've had their struggles on outside of those maps at the major where they did have the big CT sides. That's happening for them here, and they are winning those clutch rounds the majority of the time, which was kind of deja vu when they played Misfits on Train.
A tactical was called by Misfits. Have been under the cosh for quite a while now. It's 5 rounds in a row. And if you take into account the last 9 rounds, 8 of them have gone the way of Na'Vi. You can understand why Sean Gez is throwing in the towel for a little bit. Going to try and rack himself together and figure out what to do. Is there anything that's glaringly obvious to you that maybe they should try? I haven't seen that many super aggressive B-plat pushes other than the first couple of rounds.
They haven't really had the money to do it, I feel like. They haven't really had the money to get the utility sets they would want to do that, because I know when Sean Garrett wants to hit B heavy with this team, he loves to make sure he has like all the smokes and Molotovs to clear out tree, clear out chicken coop, get a smoke wall on the site, make sure they have plenty of flashes to come off of. It's very LDLC-esque when he hits B, kind of like what Existence do. I know it's someone he really respects and he kind of reads rounds from. And so when I do see this team do B execs, they want to make sure they have all that at their disposal, and they just haven't had it. They've been very limited. Shazam's never had an op this half, so you haven't really had that in your toolbox to try to work rounds off of. And in this round, it's going to be a similar story, right? They're just on Tech 9s, maybe a handful of flashes. Maybe you see them do a heavy drop-down room play with that, like with the flashes and Tech 9s, try to flood that. I know that's something that Sean Garrett just like to call in the past on eco rounds with some of his different teams, so maybe that's something to think about. Or maybe you just try to rush B with them. I mean, I don't know. It's one of those things where you're probably going to see something a bit more heavy-handed, a bit more assertive in a round like this one.
Well, we're about to have the questions answered as we are resuming into the fray once again. Round 12, we'll see Misfits with Tech 9s and a similar buy to what we saw a little while ago. Seized 15-7, Shazam 12-8. He has been playing phenomenally well so far, but it indeed is going to be a very quick B hit. Flashes, smokes, mollies, the kitchen sink has been thrown into, and Guardian will miss that first shot, won't miss the second, but the Tech 9 trainers came in, and it's landing on the station of B. Edward will break the deadlock somewhat with his kill, but it's still going back and forth. The downside for Misfits, the bomb's not been planted, and it's actually dropped in a horrific position for them. And so that fast B hit doesn't really come to much overall. I like the idea, though.
Yeah, again, they did try to go for a heavy utility B exec. The problem was they didn't have that much utility, and they were working with just Tech Knives, but they definitely did try to do something that changed the pace, and that was great. They just couldn't really break through. Great hold there by Na'Vi once again on that B bomb side as they'll keep that double op in play. And now Shazam will touch the op for the first time this half. And so we'll see. Maybe they're going to slow things down and give him a chance to work a pick with it, is what I would imagine is going to happen here. But they are gathered up to explode on B, like, you know, thinking if he can get that pick, we want to follow it up immediately. That's what they're thinking about here.
God, you're going to be flashing over. About to see a lot of action. I like that he's played more of an aggressive angle, but it's not going to work for him. Shazam is going to put that op to use for the first time with 2 kills. Seized and simple. Make that just seized. He's being mollied out of position. He's got players behind him too. Amanek picks up a second. And hey, you called it. Shazam gets the AWP, and he puts 2 frags down and 2 massively impactful kills at that, 9-4.
And it starts off with Sean Gares going in first. Again, that's a new thing for him. He's always kind of called from a lurk position. He has Amanek doing that now, so that means he's going to be more active on this team, kind of like what Shazam may do if he has a rifle in his hands. That's what Sean Gares is going to do when Shazam has the AWP, to try to set up someone like Sick. And that's been like a conscious thing that Peacemaker's even talked about in interviews, is trying to use Sean as like an entry support type guy in rounds like this where they have Shazam sniping. So, you know, really well done to open things up. And it's, again, it's that pacing change, coming in a bit faster. Gets them around on the board after a bit of a drought, as again, they're looking to put a lot of utility on this B bomb site once more. They're not going to follow it up with the hit right away, though. You see them kind of letting Amanek have some space to see what he can pick up on. So they may just do like a fake, and now they're going to re-hit it with more utility in just a second.
To a standstill, as you say, though. Amanek is going to be coming through from the long side of A. Maybe playing interference. Trying to give cause for Na'Vi to stick on this site. Thin the herd a little bit more. And with picking up that kill, it's going to get at least 1 player, looking like 2 actually, will keep their way over here. Guardian and Flamey are still keeping an eye on it. Guardian will land that kill slightly off stream, but you basically saw Amanek peeked out of mid. Edward again is on the staircase, gets found wanting. Put down by Shazam, who's going to be looking for more, and will land another one onto Cease this time. He's going to go back in for thirds. And it's a position they've played time and time again, but this time it's Guardian as opposed to Flamey who will be occupying it. Molotov going to force them out into position. Sick trying to connect the dot, but it's not going to happen for him. And Na'Vi answer back with a round of their own. Last round of the half, Misfits trailing 10-4.
It's another one of those rounds where Misfits get a brilliant opening, right? I mean, you send in Amanek after you throw a bit of a feint over at B, basically. He gets the kill on Simple. He draws the rotation. He sets you up for a B execute. And that even goes well. Like, I mean, they trade their way in, but it comes down again to one of these 2v2 type situations that Misfits just can't close. And that's happened, you know, 4 or 5 times this half, basically. So that's definitely helped out Na'Vi quite a bit as we're in the last round of the half, and they have a massive lead. They've really controlled this. And again, Edward looking to push up B for the 2nd time this game. Last time, he got a free kill and was able to get out of there. This time, he may not see anything. He may just be able to push all the way through and flank them. And look at this rotation from Na'Vi already. This is going to be a nightmare for Misfits now.
This is the importance of having that information. And we talk about it so often, but look at this. Edward is getting all the way round the back. And it's allowing them to just stack the rest of the players. They know now it's going to be an A hit. If they didn't already, Guardian is going to open his account into the final round of the half. And now they're realizing, hold on a second, Edward's behind us in mid. What is this madness? Devu Duvek next to fall. Last player that will die in this half is Sean Gares. Na'Vi with a commanding 11-4 lead on Misfits' choice of map.
That's one of those rounds where it couldn't get worse for Misfits. I mean, you basically have, you know, Edward doing something that's so rarely done, and he gets so much out of it because no one's there. No, this is the one time they didn't have a lurker B to catch that push. Like, this is the one time they decided to do a 5-man A grouping. That's the round that Edward actually pushes all the way through, flanks them. They get an early rotate. They get absolutely shut down. And so Na'Vi definitely did really well on the CT side, particularly, you know, the B side. You know, Edward on these flanks are just getting kills. C's had a fantastic game so far. You know, even though Simple had some of his shortcomings in A, I felt like he got caught out a couple of times by Amanek. You know, it didn't really cripple his team because everyone else was able to step to the plate and respond. And in rounds where Simple was able to put the AWP to work, he had some good plays. He had a good deagle round over in the chicken coop, for example, as well, on an eco round. So, yeah, I mean, this is tough on Misfits now.
So, Dust, talk to us a little bit for those that may be only seeing Misfits one of the first times at an event of this size and stature, an international event. What are we expecting to see on the CT side from them? What's their setup normally like?
They're definitely a team that could also run double lot with Amanek and Shazam. They like to put the two French players together in the A-bomb site, which I guess makes sense that they would have some natural chemistry together, obviously being teammates on former kind of smaller French teams. But again, there's not a lot of information out there because I haven't played Cobble that much, just once before this game with this 5.
So plenty of question marks then. And you better believe that Na'Vi will be in the same position. Let's have a look. So far, looks pretty standard in the pistol round. It is just full Kevlars, though, should be mentioned for Misfits. Not going for any kits or any nades or anything of that nature. Whereas Na'Vi do have 2 flashes on Guardian, 1 Cs. They've got 2 smokes and a HE, so they've got plenty of utility in which they can use over on this B side. I'm saying the B side because originally that looks like where the bomb's going to be coming down, but they haven't quite shown their cards just yet.
No, not at all. I mean, they are now jumping in, though. Edward leading that charge in the drop down. They're trying to do something faster paced, but Sean Garrett has a really sick angle to hold, but unfortunately not going to be able to put it to use. As we do see Na'Vi getting all these entries with Edward and C's into the B-bomb side. They've pretty much captured the round.
Just those 2 kills opens B wide open. And now Misfits have the arduous, tenuous task of trying to reclaim what was once theirs. Amanek going to be coming through the doors alongside Sick. And they have landed a headshot onto Flamey. He's going to have to rethink his options now. Can't go too hyper-aggressive. How is he not dead yet is now the question on my mind. And he's alive long enough to actually put Sick down, leaving Amanek all on his own. And Simple will dispatch of him. So Na'Vi have picked up the second pistol. A must-win round on the side of Misfits, who now find themselves 12-4 behind. And looks like we are going to have another pause. I think it's a technical timeout this time around. Misfits picking up a deagle on DreamHack, so it looks like they are going to be jumping straight back into this, the 17th round, and seeing what they can get done. Having some technical issues at the moment, guys. Just bear with us for 1 second. I think Dust PC's having a meltdown.
Indeed it did. Somehow it randomly joined a team, even though I have not touched that computer. The game was minimized the entire time because I was looking at some notes of mine. So I have no idea how that happened. Blame me, of course. One time it is, in fact, our fault. I also appreciate Mets absolutely tossing me under the bus. No reason that had to happen, by the way. No one had to know that that's in fact what occurred. But, you know, really my co-caster just looking out for me, you know, making sure that, you know, gives me some solid treatment.
All right, here we go, Dust.
What a bell end.
Oh, you love it, mate. You love it.
Jesus.
He's off by himself. Whole bunch of smokes. Just have to compose myself now. Amanek's on site by himself with an eagle. He is going to be joined momentarily by his French brother, DreamHack. You did call this. They like to stack A together. And it is a full-on buy for Misfits too. They've put a whole bunch of focus into this one. And you got to feel if they lose this map, especially if it's super one-sided, going through the train next, it just definitely doesn't bode well for Misfits. They're pushing straight up. Amanek's going to land the first one dig. Maybe they have a slither of hope into this round. Amanek's going to be looking for a second one any second now, but DreamHack does land one onto Edward, and Amanek comes through alongside Sick. C's now with the UMP has been spotted in the murder hole. He's going to get himself one, surely no more, and Sean Gaz lays him to rest. Misfits take the round, picking up an AK and a couple of UMPs. One hell of a way to start the second half off.
Yeah, I mean, there's been several rounds where Misfits have posed a threat with just pistols, and they've, you know, made it a tight race, but they finally close one of those out. And it comes right at the right time when you really need a round like that because you're so far behind. And you can see the impact it's had on Na'Vi. They're just going to be on some Glocks and one deagle, so definitely a full save for the most part outside of Flamey's deagle. This might be the chance for Misfits to grab a hold of the line here and kind of reel things back in just a bit.
Flamey down. It's one of the Deagles that's gone with him. Still have one on Edward, but apart from that, it's Glocks. No rush for Na'Vi. Don't need to be force spying needlessly. They got plenty rounds as a buffer between them and the Misfits. I'm gonna say, Amanek has been impressing me so far on this map. He's been consistently solid on both sides. Shazam's the other player that springs to mind for Misfits. And it's Sean Gaines that comes through with the next kill. Simple and Seized. 2 Glocks between them. Minute to play with.
Yeah, I mean, this should be pretty much a done deal, right? Less Simple just fires off with a Deagle, which, fair enough. Simple's definitely one of those guys, when he has a Deagle in his hands, it certainly could make a play. But this would be asking a heck of a lot with 5 members still up for Misfits, fully decked out and fairly healthy outside of Devoduvic.
Picks up Flamey's Deagle. Of course, it's going to be the Blaze. What else? And now moving through long. Best case scenario is maybe an entry frag into a bomb plant, but I just don't see how that's going to be a possibility. Amanek also up on the barrel again. We discussed this yesterday. Really screws with the crosshair placement coming around that corner with the Deagle. No longer is easy to land the insta-headshot. Misfits convert Na'Vi right back in with a purchase. No AWP though.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do, because this is a team that would normally in the past play like Misfits did. Really slow, methodical defaults, really work things through. But one of the focuses that Andy's really had, it seems like, as a coach on this team has been to make them a more aggressive team. Put that firepower out there faster and just play like swarm and trade. Just you put that firepower to work. And so that's kind of what you may start seeing in some of these rounds on Navi's T side as well. There's definitely a map that can play to that type of style. French teams definitely showed that off last year quite a lot. And so this is definitely something we could see out of them going forward, as in fact they will just start looking to swarm the drop-down room as quickly as possible. Already have the entry on the Sean Garrett, and they're just following it up nicely.
Using their individual presence and power to steamroll over Misfits. It was looking good after winning that pistol round into the full-on Na'Vi purchase, but it looks like the power has balanced itself once more. Na'Vi makes strides towards that finish line of this first map. Of course, it's still early days in this best of 3, but considering it's train next and they played each other just yesterday and Na'Vi won 16-5, it doesn't bode too well. Amanek with a double spray down though. They run into his crosshair and he will oblige, pushing them over the edge and bags himself a bunch of money in the process, but still a 7-round deficit for Misfits, and it's hard to see how they get back into this one now.
Yeah, they're going to buy up what they can in this round. It includes a few M4s. I think an M4 actually got dropped by Sean Gares to one of his players, and he actually picks up the CZ, so kind of making that sacrifice to get that rifle over to someone else. Full AK grouping here from Na'Vi, as well as a buttload of utility, so that gives them so many options now. We do see them looking to kind of just play it split, a few towards A-Halls to fight for control with that utility. Edward leading it. No surprise there. He's usually always played this position for Na'Vi. Nice little push, though, coming in. May catch him off guard. It does. Well played by Amanek. Even finds a second. This is nice. Gets out of there as well. Couldn't have gone better.
Again, excellent work by the Frenchman. Has been tagged down low. Only 2 smokes to play with and no kits for the Misfits, though. That could be something that comes back to bite them, pardon me, later on in this round. Flamey, Simple, Seized. As you highlighted earlier, a bunch of utility still at their disposal. Amanek has changed position into mid instead. He was previously watching long, of course. And he has Devoduvic, who's watching that now from the back of the site. Pretty solid positions have been assumed. Sean Gares with the CZ does dome Flamey and will be taking his weapon, saying thank you very much for your generous donation. Sees straight through though onto Devoduvic, looking for a potential boost to see if they can look down into mid and get rid of any other pesky CTs that may be around this area. But time is scarce, 25 seconds to be precise. Seized, funneling his way onto the site, does have the bomb, and now it's just down to Simple. He has to channel his inner god. Not gonna happen. He gets brought back down to reality. Seized, does have the bomb planted, does have a bit of utility to fend off the push, but Sick is having none of it. Misfits do pick another one up.
Yeah, I mean, Simple was just stuck in a really rough spot there. He had so many things he had to worry about, and he did well to at least get his teammate inside the site for a bomb plant, but trying to close out that round was just asking a heck of a lot, and starts off with Amanek just again making a massive play over in long at the beginning. I mean, you really couldn't ask for more out of him to get 2 frags and get away like that. In a spot that can be very tricky, even pushing through the smoke, taking a dice roll, and just winning his fights here. So really well played. I'm sure the French fans in the crowd will be happy about that one as Misfits are trying to see if they can't get back into this game. But again, with that bomb plant, Na'Vi still would have pieced together a pretty nice purchase. And it looks like they won't waste too much time in this round. You see them already all 5 gathered up towards B. Good counter utility from Misfits is going to slow them down for now. But you got to think that once these smokes start dissipating, since they have limited utility themselves, they're going to want to just fight their way in here as quick as possible. And they've already done a lot of damage to Sick.
Yeah, Sick very unfortunate there. Spraying perfect circles around everyone on B long. It's going to get himself killed, and Edward straight through with another one. Shazam, who's one of the key men in that first half, play no further part of this round. Seized will be vanquished by the hands of DreamHack, who's trying to stop this push before it gets into place. And Simple with a quick fire triple in the dying embers of the round. And that just goes to highlight as well, when it comes to individual performance, if Simple just turns it up a notch, very few players can hang with him.
I mean, he rapidly changed that round. That was looking like a slugfest for a moment, and then all of a sudden, Simple just comes through, makes a massive play, hat trick to follow up Edward's 2 entries. And again, Na'Vi just showing you that faster paced play that they're capable of now with this lineup, with this new coaching going on, and they punish Misfits. And now Misfits have to buy all they can to prevent Na'Vi from getting map point, but you can see it's definitely a bottom of the barrel type buy, and only gets worse from here if they lose this round. So this can be Na'Vi's best opportunity to just close this map early, go ahead and move on to that second map right away. Because I'm trying to pose a threat with this scout off the platform, doing some damage, finally gets the headshot in the Flamey.
Not bad at all, but he does take quite a lot of damage in return. And here is the man in question, Simple. Great couple of kills to finish off the round, but Sean Gaz, again with that CZ, and I was going to say earlier that Misfits have won rounds with a very similar buy to this one previously. So you can't write them off. With this mixed bag of weaponry, Seized, gonna very much live up to his name. Sean Gaz will fall as a result. Add on top of that Sick. It's just getting picked off one by one here, Misfits. Doesn't seem too much cohesion on this defense round. And it is the 2 Frenchmen left. DreamHack and Amanek both with UMPs. They do have a Molotov and have boosted over. So Amanek's going to be coming through from the long side. Guardian's already a step ahead of this one, and Seized is watching drop zone. It's looking unlikely, isn't it? Amanek now has an AK. They've used their Molotov, giving away their own position and not really getting too much from it. Seized will jump on top of DreamHack, picking up a 3rd kill. And that is going to be all she wrote for round 22. Na'Vi will have a 8-round lead. 15-7 will be the score.
Yeah, so he's playing a really good game, and I know that's kind of been a storyline for him, is that he's kind of struggled since taking over the in-game leader position. You know, definitely not putting up the numbers that he used to when he didn't have that responsibility on his shoulders, but he's definitely popped off here on Cobblestone. He's leading the board 21-17. Edward not too far behind. He's also had an impressive half. And Simple's really kicked it up a notch as well in this half alone. He's had some massive plays over on the B platform, which is kind of his home base nowadays. But yeah, it's definitely Seized to kind of ensure this round for Na'Vi. Are now 1 away from getting the 1-0 advantage in this series. And again, you see Misfits not having much to work with. Just that AK that Amanek saved and some upgraded pistols. And I'm sure Na'Vi smell blood in the water, and they want to go ahead and get this thing done with.
Not taking any prisoners, it would seem. Sick with a CZ kill and manages to survive. Albeit on 30 health, but still, that is a steal of a kill. This is where the noose starts to be tightened around the neck of Misfits, and they have finally been executed on Cobblestone. 16-7. They held on. It was a close start to the map, but anything but close towards the end. As expected, Na'Vi 1-0 lead.
Yeah, I mean, Cobblestone seemed like the map that maybe that was some room for Misfits to work with. I mean, it's a map that isn't really on the strong end of Na'Vi's map pool anymore, and it's a map we didn't really have too much info about Misfits on, and so that was always going to be kind of a question mark. But Na'Vi, they do take it. Now they get to go over to Train, which is their home turf, and they absolutely blasted Misfits yesterday on it. Again, some close rounds in the game. Maybe the scoreboard doesn't reflect that, but it still was Na'Vi winning out most of those rounds. And it happened in this map as well, right? Like, most of those clutch-type rounds went to Na'Vi the vast majority of the time. That was a huge difference maker really throughout this game. I mean, there's at least 4 or 5 rounds there that felt like it could go either way, but they all seemed to go to Na'Vi.
Yeah, very reminiscent to yesterday's performance on Train, which we've already highlighted, and Train is next as well. So it will be Misfits' chance to try and bounce back and make amends, a bit of revenge for that loss yesterday that put them in the position they're currently in. But we are going to go to a quick commercial break, pardon me, and we'll be back for map number 2. So stay tuned, we'll be right back.